In today's video, I'm going to give you 5 simple tips that will help you stop stress eating. When I was obese, I did not realize that I was stress eating a lot. It can be a huge roadblock for both losing weight and especially for keeping it off in maintenance. And before we delve too far into this, I do want to point out that because we're human, you're never going to be perfect at this. I'm certainly not perfect at this. I certainly have times where I stress eat. What I found is that there are just times in my life where I'm going through a prolonged period of stress and I can't just fast that entire time. I have to eat. And it leads to, me being emotional while I'm eating. But the good news is what I have found is that just being aware that you have this tendency and understanding what it looks like can help you to at least curb it so that it doesn't get you completely off track. If you're having trouble figuring out, are you about to stress eat or are you not? The big thing to look for is a sudden craving for a food. It may seem to come out of nowhere, but there's always a reason why that craving comes on, which leads us to the next step in the process. And that is to figure out what is triggering the emotional eating. And so this is where you kind of have to play detective in your own life. And what I have found is most helpful is just to kind of work backwards and to look at 2 separate things. The first place that I've found to be the most helpful is my own inner dialogue. What's going on in my head right now? What am I thinking about? Am I worried about something? Am I angry about something? Is there something that I need to be doing but that I'm not doing and I'm kind of feeling guilty about it? But if that all seems okay, then I go to the second place, which is my actual physical environment and what's going on. And usually that'll uncover the trigger. So many times I found that when I worked backwards, I realized the thing that was causing my wanting to eat was that we had just had a budget meeting and it looked like maybe some money troubles were on the horizon. And so then I would go to the kitchen to soothe myself. Other times though, it was something that was just randomly popping up in my brain, something that I, was worried about or had, negative emotion about. And I realized oh, that is why I'm wanting to eat right now. I could always figure out the reason. It did take some work though. Once you figure out what's triggering it, you basically have 2 different options. The first one is to eliminate the trigger if you possibly can. Now, this is a good strategy for longer term success with defeating stress eating. I say longer term because usually these are things that you really have to work on. A lot of times, it's going to be a multi-step process. This isn't something that you can just solve by snapping your fingers. For example, if your problem is you're stressed about money, then it might be as complex as learning how to do a budget, learning how to shop for groceries, maybe even learning how to cook so you lower your grocery budget. Also, you may need to change jobs so you increase your income. There are a lot of different things that in the moment maybe you can't solve, but in the future you can, which will solve your problem more permanently. The good news is basically any problem you have that is stressing you out, there are many good resources on the internet, on YouTube, and on other places where you can get really good instruction, usually for free, on how to solve that particular problem. Anything from car trouble to relationship trouble. But let's say you're in the moment, you've had this thing, you feel the urge to stress eat. Another thing you can do is make it really difficult to stress eat. The easiest way to make it hard to stress eat is to actually get up and go for a walk. When you do that, you're actually putting physical distance between yourself and food, and that basically makes it impossible to eat it. Just getting up and starting that forward motion helps you to get into a more positive mindset, which will in turn lower your stress, which means you'll have less of an urge to stress eat. Now, you don't have to go for a walk every time. There are plenty of other things that you can do that are incompatible with stress eating. Really, anything that just keeps your hands busy or keeps you away from food will work. The key really is to know yourself well and to know what you can actually get yourself to do when it comes to having the choice to stress eat or do this other thing. So make sure that it's a good fit. For you, it might be something totally different, like playing a video game or knitting or getting out in the garden and pulling some weeds. The main thing is to simply not stress eat. And the last part of this process, and this is very important, and I hope you don't overlook it, it's to celebrate when you do not stress eat. Now, you have to figure out what celebration will work for you. I find for myself, just giving myself a mental pat on the back. Just, when I realized oh, I was about to stress eat and I went and did something else, just telling myself, hey, good job. Way to go. You didn't stress eat. I'm proud of you. Maybe that sounds silly, but I found it really does help. I found it's even important to celebrate partial victories, meaning, if I find myself and I'm in the middle of eating and I realize that I'm stress eating, if I stop, then I congratulate myself and I say, okay, you were doing that, but you stopped, way to go. Even if you do sit down and you stress eat and you realize that you're doing it at the time, you can still redeem that experience. You can learn from it. You can work backwards and say, okay, yeah, I just did that. Why did I do that? And if you'll do that every single time, instead of just like beating yourself up, just learn from it and try new tactics. Because sometimes the thing that you thought was going to work doesn't even work. Maybe your strategy was going to be, okay, when I feel the urge to stress eat, I'm going to go outside for a walk. But, you felt the urge to stress eat and there was a storm. And so you didn't go outside to walk, so you just ate instead. Okay, well, that just tells you that you need a different strategy. Maybe your strategy could just be, I'm going to get up and walk around the house if it's raining outside. But at the end of the day, you can absolutely break this habit of stress eating. It just takes time and effort and encouraging yourself along this path. Celebrate every little bit of progress you have along the way. So to recap, remember, to stop stress eating, first, you need to realize that you're doing it. Second, you need to realize what's causing you to do it. Third, work on removing the triggers if you possibly can. Fourth, do something other than stress eat. And fifth, be sure to celebrate every victory that you have, even if it's a partial one. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Chances are, since you just watched that video, you're on the weight loss journey yourself. And I just wanted to let you know that I do have some more resources available to you. First of all, I have lots of freebies on my website, 6milestosupper.com/freebies. On that page, you can find lots of downloads and printables that will help you on the weight loss journey. And I've written 3 different books to help you through the process. Also, I have a course, Unteachable, Intermittent Fasting for Weight Loss 101. And this takes you through the entire process of weight loss with intermittent fasting, from how to get started, and then how to build your plan and customize it to your own life, and finally, how to keep it off for the rest of your life. And I also offer weekly office hours so that you can get your questions answered directly by me. Also, there's the option to join this channel. When you become an insider, you get access to the vlog I do. I also hold an additional live Q&A just for members. The links to all these things are in the description.